Negotiation in practice. Oops. At the start of a typical Japan U.S. business negotiation held at the Japanese company's office, the personal assistant of the host CEO approached the only woman in the American team and politely asked whether the hospitality arrangements that has been laid on for the day were satisfactory. There was considerable embarrassment when the two negotiating teams sat down across the table. The American woman sat opposite the CEO. She was not the negotiating team PA but is lead negotiator. Negotiations do not occur in isolation, but particularly within organizations are part of a broader negotiated order, where the role expectation of the organization provide context that shapes how individuals approach the task of resolving differences. Male negotiators are seen as being more flexible between competitive and cooperative strategies, and this accounts for some of their negotiating success. Women tend to stick to being cooperative, but the reason for this, at least in an organizational context, is that men tend to have more status and therefore more options open to them. Again, this is a contextual, not gender-based explanation, so there is no reason for men to feel superior or for women to feel they have to negotiate like men to be successful, which incorrectly assumes that men, however they negotiate, are successful. The socialization of roles by gender should not be allowed to hide the fact that both sexes are equally competent at negotiating. Female negotiators are seen as being more cooperative, but by which it means that they show more concern for others and make lower demand. When this is the case, as we will see from our strategy analysis in Chapter 5, it is not surprising that women don't get such good outcomes, but when they have set the same goals as men, they do just as well. Having status and legitimacy helped improve outcomes. As the being conscious of one's power position, men tend to assume this more than women, so women negotiators need to think more than men about how to shape their negotiation arguments around the task, their role in it, and their competency without being individualistic. My divisional manager has given me the job of sorting out these production delays. We sorted many of these, but there is still some issues with the late supply of some raw materials. I need to work with you to find the best low-cost solution. Again, men would do well to adopt this choice of approach rather than just put their solution on the table and expect to persuade everyone to agree with it. Women might challenge the definition of negotiation in Chapter 1 because of its task orientation. Felt that female negotiators define a situation more broadly than their male counterparts, such as considering who might be affected in the future, reflecting a more relationship-driven motivation. Following from this, the ensuing discussion might be viewed more as an opportunity to talk through a problem than a negotiation to fix it. This led to a more collaborative perspective and less use of confrontational tactics. Women will exchange information, but only to understand the situation better rather than to secure a good outcome for themselves. Negotiation is less clearly separated from other conversation, with one consequence being that women can find themselves in situations where men are negotiating but they are not doing so themselves. We might presume to give some gender-specific advice for when you are negotiating with someone of the opposite sex. Male negotiators should look at the broader perspective and include other people's concerns while backing off from making threats or using sarcastic humor. Female negotiators should raise their expectations through good research and not let their goals become diluted for the sake of others achieving theirs. This is not specifically gender related advice, it's a useful advice for all negotiators, no matter with whom they are negotiating. Again, self reflection is important as I take in a strategic approach. Negotiation skill tips. Negotiating with the other gender. Look for similarities, not differences. Female negotiator. Check whether your goals is high enough. Male negotiators. Check whether you might lose by winning. Other directedness. One more brief but very important point can be made out the stance of negotiation DNA. There are two strands to a DNA. The definition of negotiation, chapter 1, is that negotiation is a process in which two parties. There will always be somebody sitting across the negotiating table or at the other end of the internet connection. This is so obvious that we tend to forget it. Our thinking becomes egocentric, and linear. But throughout this book, we will see that the other party has choices too. Hence, the advice in chapter 1 to remember that at all times that negotiation is two-sided. We can call this an order-directed mindset, one that involves us always deliberately taking the other party's possible reaction into account. Table 2.3 offer two common examples of one-sided and other-directed thinking. The approach in both examples may be the right one. As we will see, to focus on interest first is a wise strategy. The difficulty lies with the presumption that the other party will follow a similar approach, not recognizing that they also have choices. They may feel that working through a document is the best way to resolve outstanding issues. If this happens without being anticipated, our negotiator who rightly wants to follow an interest-based approach can easily become frustrated that the other party is not negotiating properly, and this will color their judgment and reactions. The negotiators can become competitive because of this. Table 2 by 3 examples of one-side and other-directed thinking. One-side thinking or other-directed thinking. We have a good background, so we will tell them that our price is non-negotiable. Unstated. They will quickly realize that they have to accept our price. What if, for whatever reason, they do not accept our price? What else can they do? How will we react if they don't do what we expect and consist to our price? When we get into the negotiation, we need to explore our interests first and then move on to possible solutions. We will hold back on giving our proposal until we uncover all the interests. Unstated, they will also adopt the interest-based approach. What if the other party presents a proposal at the outset and insists on going through it in some detail? Consequently, a core principle for negotiators is always considering everything from the other party's perspective. This does not mean conceding to accommodate them. It means always explicitly considering what the other party's options are, the decision they may take rather than just the one you want them to take. Negotiation in practice. Not remembering that negotiation is two-sided. Logistics CEOs has successfully provided services to one division of a chemical company for many years. It learned that a new division in that company was looking for logistics services, so the sales leader from logistics called, but in a quote for the work comparable to the price negotiated with the other division. When he visited the procurement manager of the new division, he was surprised, as he later recalled, when he learned very early in the conversation that procurement manager was seeking a range of bids. The sales leader had thought He had the inside running because of the successful relationship between the two companies, not having thought through any alternative scenarios. He didn't have a response to the procurement manager's insisting that the quote be reduced by 10%. His subsequent offer of a 5% reduction was acceptable to the procurement manager and the contract was secured. The other division of the company then demanded a 5% cut from him too. Becoming an effective negotiator. While we might become more alert to positive ways of handling difficult situations, we must always remember that negotiation is two-sided, and so keep examining our own approaches and behaviors. We may not be able to change who we are, but we can change what we do. So improve our negotiating and become more effective. There are three elements to improving our effectiveness. Envisioning what a good negotiator looks like, become a reflective practitioner, and committing to continue learning about how we function as a negotiator.